All right, folks, welcome back. And joining Lisa and I on the panel this hour, returning by popular demand, is Fred Fleitz. He's the chief analyst for LIGNET. And General Paul E. Vallely, retired, and of course, chairman of Stand Up America, also joins us. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, Steve.
You know, we had just now the former economic policy advisor to Vladimir Putin, Andrei Illarionov. And I'm so excited I now know how to say that name correctly. I'm going to repeat it early and often. But he talked about how this could have been prevented by a military show of force, short of firing a shot, a military buildup of sorts to protect Ukraine early on. Would have thwarted any attempt by Putin to undertake the aggression that he undertook. Do you agree with that, General?
Well, I do. I mean, I go back even to the Berlin airlift, which some of you may or may not remember. But, it was a show of force in Berlin versus the Russians closing down the Berlin corridor. And we have done that over a number of times where we do have a very strong show of force and we have strong words. But unfortunately, Obama and this administration, they talk, but there's nothing ever to back it up. So you have to show strength against individuals like Putin because he plays hardball.
And Fred, you agree?
I agree in part. I think we would have made the possibility of the action in Ukraine less likely. But with our weak policy and the lack of any military action, it made it more likely it would happen. But I think we had to be cautious because the Russians did go into Georgia under George W. Bush, and I think we had a much stronger foreign policy then. We don't know what might have happened. I'll just say I think it's less likely this would have happened.
I think, Fred, you're right. I think absolutely. But at least you have a show of force and indicate that we are strong, not weak. And I'm not sure. Well, I am sure we would not go to war over Ukraine or Crimea. But with a weakening NATO, Steve and Fred, they show no strength. So Putin, again, is playing hardball. He knows what he's doing. He'll get away with what he wants to get away with.
General, I want to ask you about some of the recent remarks that we know President Obama made while he was in Europe. Specifically, he spoke dismissively of what is going on in Russia, calling it a problem.
I can't hear Lisa.
Yeah, I can't either.
All right, they can't. For some reason, they can't hear Lisa, guys. So she's referring to the remarks made by Obama, speaking dismissively of what went on, basically saying, acquiescing to the fact that it's done, can't be reversed, and we're not going to, react militarily to any further incursion into Russia, while at the same time saying to Russia, pull your troops back. And I guess, I don't want to speak for Lee, but I think the question is, how do you come to grips with those two points of view?
Go ahead, Fred.
Well, in my view, when you're in a hole, you have to stop digging. And the Obama administration, the president's made so many statements that he hasn't followed up on. I think he needs to come up with a way that both sides can have a face-saving way out of the situation. The Russians are laughing at us, at all these demands that we're making, that Russian troops have to be withdrawn, there will be repercussions. The repercussions are pinpricks, as John Bolton has been saying. Denying visas and not letting certain Russians travel to the United States, that's about it. That's about all we're doing.
Yeah, General?
Well, that's exactly right. But you have to establish that you are a power, you are a strength, you have a strong government, you have a strong military, you have a strong foreign policy, and they all know that. They know we haven't had a diplomatic victory since the early 90s when the wall went down. So they know diplomatically we're weak, and they know from the executive branch that our national security team is weak. And so they'll continue to take advantage of it, just as the Chinese will, as the North Koreans will, as the Iranians will. So that's why we have to get strong people that understand national security and can play in the big leagues.
Well, let's shift gear and talk about Benghazi for a second. Some rank-and-file House Republicans have set up what's described as a working group to follow up on the Benghazi attack. I just played. I saw yesterday Obama during the debates with Romney, assuring the American public they're going to get to the bottom of it and they're going to bring those who are responsible to justice. Of course, We're still waiting for that to happen. Lynn Westmoreland, Republican from Georgia, is leading this effort. How important do you think, Fred, a select committee on Benghazi is to finding out more, getting to the bottom of this, bringing someone to justice, or is it not that relevant at all?
It's absolutely crucial. The reason is that the administration is playing something called a jurisdiction game. They don't answer questions by certain committees because it's in the jurisdiction of another. A special committee could look at the entire question and issue subpoenas. You can't do that in the Senate because the Republicans don't control the Senate. It could be done in the House right now, but for some reason, House leadership is not approving this, and I think this has to do with fiefdoms of various House committees. I think it's a real missed opportunity to find the answers what really happened in this Benghazi tragedy.
General?
Well, Steve, Fred, you may know I was part of establishing the Citizens Commission on Benghazi with Admiral Lyons, General McInerney, and several others, and worked with Frank Wolf to get this done with the signatures, probably over about 85 now, going to Boehner and say we have to have a select committee. These individual committees can't do it. Now, we're going to release a report next week, which is going to be very revealing on a lot of things. I mean, we're at the point we almost believe that Boehner's complicit with the cover-up in some way, that he knew some things, and that's why he's not going forth with the select.
Is that you believe that Boehner is part of the cover-up?
Boehner may be complicit in some of the cover-up with the administration that they don't want to reveal. Now, that came from several sources, which were very good. But I don't want to, put everything on Boehner. But the fact of it is, he's not taking charge. He looks weak. He acts weak. And the fact that he knows what a select committee can do with subpoenas, and that's, I think, what Fred was pointing out.
I just want to follow up real quick. Are these congressional sources or military sources? And do you have any idea what aspect of the cover-up he may be complicit in?
Some of the sources did come from CIA. Some of the sources have come also from two of the people that we interviewed that were involved in the arms transfer in Libya. And then also with the relation, some of the stuff that I received, even when I was in Egypt, about what America was provided. So I'm not advocating right now that Boehner absolutely did this, but it appears, because he's been so reluctant to form a select committee, there's something going on there with he and the Democrats.
General, what about in regard to Hillary Clinton and her involvement with Benghazi, or lack of involvement? Do you think this will have any kind of effect on her should she decide to run for president in 2016?
Well, I just wrote a letter or an article today on. I sent Steve earlier. Yes, it's going to affect her. She's never accomplished anything as the head of the State Department or in any capacity that I can pinpoint. But the Democrats want to push her. She should be held up for, what difference does it make? And that's going to carry forward. We should not ever have her be in charge of the United States, go into that position. She's just not. She's not capable.
All right, well, gentlemen, you will both be back in the next hour. We appreciate you joining us on the panel this hour. Thank you very much to Fred Fleitz, the chief analyst at LIGNET, and of course, U.S. Army Major General and the now chairman of Stand Up America, General Paul E. Vallely. And when we come back, great. Lisa, great segue. What a pro, what a great segue, because we're going to talk about Hillary next with Jay Koss, staff writer for the Weekly Standard, and he's going to talk about the what he calls the Republicans' problem that it has on its hands running against Hillary, presumably. Right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
We don't just talk about the news, we talk to those making news. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.